sexuality at a very young age. Not because I was sexually active, but because I was in an environment that constantly talked about it. Ever since I was very young, my mom gave me the talk, and continued the talk in 2-month intervals afterwards. In addition, I spent 2 hours per day, every day, on a bus with 8 other boys who are my age, and who are at the age when they start to learn more and more about these intimate relationships. Through them, I learned for the first time what these relationships truly entail and what it means for me. This isn't going to be a talk where I convince you that all boys are rapists and all girls are victims. I even apologize if the next 12 minutes are going to be as awkward as your 9th grade health class. I can't really speak for everyone, but at least I can generalize from my experience in the Puxi campus. In my high school, almost everyone's Asian and everyone was raised in a very traditional household. Therefore, a majority of them grow up being quite clueless about what intimacy really is and what would they do when put into those situations. However, this isn't just that small community. Even in this talk about consent, I still can't use the word sex because we, adolescents and adults, still treat that word as a necessary evil. As I briefly mentioned earlier, I was exposed to this type of knowledge at a younger age than most girls. Therefore, I was slut-shamed all my life. I was labeled and alienated as the whore in middle school as a slut in high school, just because I was more open about this type of stuff that we're about to encounter very soon, but scared to talk about. Because our society has placed a negative, although unnecessary, connotation on the most basic primal instinct. As girls, one of the many disadvantages for us is sexuality is generally a taboo topic throughout our lives, while boys are exposed to explicit sexual images roughly in middle school. Therefore, we really can't blame the clueless nature of anyone, as not only does our traditional familiar culture doesn't allow it, neither does the greater community, including Western ideals. We don't even need to talk about intercourse exclusively. Anything ranging from hugging and kissing can cause a huge amount of confusion before, during, and after the action. Yes, we learn primarily from romantic comedies and, on the extreme side, 50 Shades of Grey. But if we're being honest here, do you ever wonder how easy it seems for the female protagonist? When I watch these things, I always think, wow, this is really sexy, this is really intimate, this is really romantic. However, from what I heard from other people, the reality highly detached itself from these romantic fiction. Hence, our knowledge about sexual intercourse is limited to the knowledge we learn in school and the fiction we read. To me, that doesn't seem like quite enough. At least, definitely not enough for me to know what my body is capable of and whether my mental capacity matches these desires. The boys have a heart too. If you've ever watched explicit videos online, you know of its graphic nature. But what you don't learn is the relationship and the human aspect that are often the primary context behind these situations. In our culture, boys are allowed, encouraged, and expected to have their sexual awakening at a young age through private and silent self-discoveries, while girls are often expected to do it primarily through sex ed and through romantic fiction. There's a reason why sexual stereotypes exist, and it stems from traditional gender archetypes. Men are expected to be aggressive, to be proactive, to take action, while women are therefore less penalized because boys will be boys. While women, on the other hand, are expected to passively say no and physically fight back when put into these intimate situations with no consideration of the tension and pressure that's often built up. If girls are naturally victimized, then so are boys, only as a perpetrator. To me, the problem at hand is not that all guys are rapists and all they want to do is engage in sexual intercourse without consent, but it's that sense of miscommunication and confusion. A research showed that in modern society, guys often act as initiators of sexual activity while women often act as sexual gatekeepers. This is mostly due to the more experienced and expected nature of young boys through self-discovery, while girls are normally expected to learn either in health class or on the spot. In the same research, they found that during sex, men are often looking for consent, often through a use of body language, while women are often waiting for the men to ask for the consent. Hence, another gap in communication exists that could very well become controversial when one party realizes they're not comfortable with the action and put the burden of responsibility on their partners. Consent to me isn't just our permission for our partners to make a move. Instead, it's the coming together of our body and mind that agrees to all sexual activities. Oftentimes, we find ourselves wanting too badly to please our partners that we compromise our mental limitations in order to satisfy our partner's assumed needs. It's that feeling of, well, I don't really hate it, but if I were to choose, I wouldn't have done it. To some people, that might be good enough. But that is exactly what causes perhaps an unfortunate lawsuit, because we're not honest enough with ourselves about our own bodies, and that when things happen and it goes beyond our imagination, we feel violated and victimized. The question is no longer, am I okay with myself doing this with this person? Instead, is it okay for myself to do this? The affirmative consent movement that's very popular in the States right now is changing from no means no policy to a yes means yes protocol. This means that in a courtroom, instead of looking for indicators of struggle in the victim, they're looking for active consent given by both parties. To me, this movement shifts the focus from a couple as an entity to viewing individuals in a relationship. Most importantly, however, is encouraging a conversation that is much needed, however much lacking in our society that's filled with rape culture and slut-shaming. My original goal for this talk was to supposedly spread awareness of the current consent movement. While I was preparing for this, I realized the real lesson that needs to be given is for our shelter community to stop alienating this concept. Sex is uncomfortable for everyone, especially at school. No one wants to talk about it, and we avoid it at all costs. But now the consequence has caught up with us. When 1 in 5 college women report that they have been sexually harassed at least once in their lifetime. This is because we have allowed that sexual stereotype to become the norm and allowed our slut-shaming culture to grow in order to protect and avoid that one conversation. If everyone was open about their most basic primal instincts, the slut-shaming culture wouldn't exist, and there would be no confusion and no excuses for not identifying consent. Today's theme for the talk is envision, but I'm not looking into the future. I'm looking into the past, to a time where we haven't had let our social norms endanger our physical, sexual, and mental security. If there's something you learned from my TED Talk today, it's that sex, it's not embarrassing, it's not forbidden, it's not a taboo. Instead, it's normal and it's natural and it's a human need. Thank you.